Hello. So I'm going to do our commentary.
Also have our Dave from Perception Correction with us. Dave.
Rad.
That's a new one. That is a new one. I like it.
I'm on thesaurus.com, and every time you ask, I look up great on thesaurus.com, and I'm going to pick a new one.
So festive is not on there?
No, definitely not. Super. I skipped super. Maybe next week.
All right. We also have a special guest with us this evening. I myself have had the pleasure of meeting him at a Twitter meetup last year, and I will be seeing him again this coming weekend for our now annual Christmas Twitter meet. We have Adam Mental joining us for a chat. Adam Mental, whose real name is Steve, is a 47-year-old Christian conservative musician. He's a husband and a father of three who lives in the Kitchener-Waterloo region in Ontario, who became politically active after the 2020 COVID scam woke him up to the corruption, and the local schools started trying to brainwash his kids. I know about that all too well. His trials with the school and outspoken posts resulted in many viral tweets and networking within the Freedom community. He attended the Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa, like myself and Ash. Tammy unfortunately didn't make it, and is now doing everything in his power to wake people up with his music, media presence, and networking within the community, so we can get that frickin' Trudeau, globalism, woke politics, and climate alarmism out of Canada and restore financial responsibility and cultural sanity. And let's make Canada great again. You can find him on X at Adamental2, the number 2. Steve, thank you for joining us. How are you this evening?
I'm excellent. Thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Woo woo! Gonna see you this weekend.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's been wonderful getting to know everybody in the community. We have such a wonderful little Twitter family going, and everybody, networking and meeting each other. And yeah, it's been wonderful to, we're living in insane times, right? The culture is so rotten, and the institutions are so corrupt. And so to find people that can see it and are awake to it and aren't it's even more dystopian when you're around people that don't see it, and and you're trying to
So this is really speaking to me. I listened to this today already. Went on my walk, and I'm feeling disconnected from people, society. I feel like I'm not good enough. To have this conversation with people, and when I first started listening to this, I see how professional the broadcast crew is. I guess it's 3 girls, 3 women and a man or something. They all sound so professional. They sound like they're so put together. Like they're in the stream of life. And I felt like I'm not worthy. I felt feelings of unworthiness coming up to interact with them or reach out to them or make friends with them, because they'll see me as like a low status little bug or something, cockroach or something. But I'm also feeling a really strong pull these days to connect with men as opposed to women. And I think I've had a life pattern of seeking out women instead of seeking out men to be friends with. And so I sort of have to consciously push back against that pattern to be like, no, I want to make friends with men that I can talk with and have conversations with. So once this gentleman, Adam Intel, came in, like once he came into the conversation, I felt a little more comfortable listening. And I want to make friends with them. Like I want to reach out, connect with them. I want to become friends. And that's what I'm wanting. I'm wanting to become friends with people who were not complying, who were fighting back. I feel very, very isolated. And I found myself resonating and agreeing with a lot of this, I guess his name is Steven was saying during this. And he's describing that almost, it's like a bizarro world. There's a bizarro world now for people that were fighting against this. It's like there's a continuation of gaslighting that's still driving us crazy. And that's why I wanted to do a commentary on this.
Like you're trying to put up the face like everything's normal, but if you try to say anything, they give you the fluoride stare.
Yeah.
So it's just fucking brilliant, right? It's like now it's like we have to pretend like everything's normal. Like it's like, and I've been having a hard time articulating. And then the fluoride stare is fucking hilarious. That's why they all laugh at it here. So I don't even know if I'm really going to make any additional commentary. Like let him speak for himself. But I do have input, so we'll see how capable I am to add input.
So it's wonderful to connect.
Stare.
Well, you're in Commie Central there.
Yes.
Oh, it's
You're
bad.
in a horrible region.
And
the reason why that's funny is because it's instinctive. Like, yeah, the fluoride, it's like that's what it feels like. It's diverged. Realities have diverged. It's like you're walking among the zombies.
Yeah, like my kids go to a school in the Waterloo Region District School Board that's under their jurisdiction, and like my Twitter account originally went viral when I posted a tweet a couple of years ago when they gave her an assignment to do a native land acknowledgement, and they wanted her to make one up and basically grovel about white colonization in the West, and they wanted her to read it on the school announcements. And like, you know, like So
Yeah.
I tweeted that out, and it went super mega viral. And suddenly I had I probably got 3,000 or 4,000 followers from a single tweet. And I've never, like, to this day, I've never had a tweet that went bigger than that. But I've had a few other viral ones, and certainly the one that's pinned is also one of my bigger ones. But it's been quite the I live in an area with a school district that is absolutely hammering our kids with all the most evil stuff you could imagine. And like during COVID, I was begging my wife to homeschool them, but she refused to pull the plug. And so my next best option was to try to protect them from some of the more
So I'm not married. I don't have children. And I guess so many times it's like people will disqualify you. Like they'll say you can't have an opinion. And I say, fuck that. I'll have my opinion. But I know the critics. Like, you can't have any opinion because I'm not married and I don't have children, therefore stay out. No, I will not stay out. There are ideals. To me, if he has the ability and she has the ability to homeschool, to me, if the man wants his wife to homeschool the children, and if it's possible, she should listen to him and try and find a way to make it work. He says he's Christian. There's always like I'm not being a dumb hard ass. Like, of course it's everything's situational, but if the only reason she didn't want to homeschool was because she didn't feel like it, to me, like, it sounds here like she's begging, he's begging his wife, and I don't think that's how it should be. I think, if you marry a woman, and yet sometimes you find out too late, but you would want the woman to accept your direction when it comes to big topics like who's going to school our children. So it's a little triggering. I know what I'm saying is controversial, and I know people will say I have no right to say it because I'm not married and I don't have children, but I can have an ideal in my head. And I guess I'm saying, like, oh man, it's so controversial. I don't even know if I want to be so controversial here on YouTube. But I'll just, like, men see shit women don't see. I'll put it like that. And it's the role of the wife to trust the husband. And if the wife doesn't trust the husband, then they're not a good wife. I mean, I'll just put it like that. And so in an ideal world, I'm not saying the world is ideal. If a husband says we need to homeschool our children, the wife shouldn't look for excuses not to do it. I'm not advocating authoritarianism and dictatorship in the marriage, but to me, it's more like there should be a understanding between husband and wife for important issues like this.
Egregious attempts at brainwashing, and at the same time, I'm absolutely like pounding into my kids how much we reject this stuff on a regular basis, so that they don't ever start to entertain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I work for a large corporation.
And it's weird. So I am like, okay, this is actually good because I'm on both sides of this. So I just said my piece about wives accepting husband's leadership. But at the same time, I feel like what he's just saying there, he gets into it later, that it's almost like the role of the woman perhaps is to temper, like when he's like pounding these values into his children. To me, that I get triggered by that. And I feel almost there's a little bit of abusiveness there. I'm not saying that it is abuse, but I think there's a way to show your children your values without pounding it into them. And it's not to say that there's not, discipline. I'm not talking physical, but like, it's not to say that you don't need to corral your children or, set them straight on things. I'm not saying, but it's just the energy of it. I just, I know what it's like to grow up with a father that is a hard ass, and that's just not good for children. There's a way to be a leader as a father and a husband where you're not a harsh dictator. There's a way to do it. And yeah.
Which shall not be named. But I work along, I'm working alongside people who are fast asleep on a regular basis, rubbing elbows with people who think Trudeau is the best, and who embrace DEI as a philosophy and culture, and agree.
And so I am suffering this right now, where there's this intense gaslighting. To me, there's a gaslighting that, like, in my life, when I'm interacting with the limited people that I interact with, I have to pretend around all of them. And so I want to make friends with people like this Adamental guy. I want a friend circle with people like this dude.
With all the brainwashing that's been pumped on them, and it's like the frog slowly getting warmed up, right? Like things that you'd say there's no way you would ever agree with that, but the culture has just slowly shifted, and people that are asleep have shifted with it, and they don't realize how far it's just drifted them.
Oh my God. Yeah. So going to that tweet, we'll just jump ahead here regarding that tweet that went viral. Dave, I don't know if you want to bring it up, but I do have it here in front of me. I can read it. So basically you wrote, our 13-year-old daughter has
this one? Sorry.
That's the one. Yeah. Yeah. Our 13-year-old daughter has been given an assignment at school to write her own personal land acknowledgement to grovel in guilt about white colonization of the West. And they want to they want her to read it on the morning announcements. So we are going to war with the school. So what happened? Like, what was
I gotta give you a little bit of context. So, like, I came onto Twitter originally in my like, this is my Adamental 2 account. This is my second account. My first account was Adamental, just Adamental. And that's my music account because I'm a hip hop recording artist and producer. Yeah, I'm 47, I'm almost 50, so I'm very old to be doing this, but that's fine. I'm still working at that. But then when COVID landed, like that account was dedicated to music and promoting my music and networking in the music world and all the rest. And the whole thing was music focused. And then when COVID happened, I just forgot about music, and everything was about learning, like waking up to the scam and the corruption and the tyranny that we were under. And basically that account just totally became 100% political for like a year and a half, to the point that it really offended and turned off a lot of people in the music world that were my contacts. And so I finally,
Stop them.
so I finally went, I really need to make this a music account again. So I'm going to open up a second account and I'll make that dedicated to politics. And that's where I'll air out all of my controversial opinions. That's where I'll complain and try to draw attention to all the stuff that younger people who are not awake would not want to hear and get offended by. And so I separated them and I changed my whole follower listing. And then I came on here and I swear I had like nobody, like it was the deadest account until this tweet. And this was just a drop. Like this was me just, you know, like I wasn't thinking anything of it. You just living your day. Like I woke up in the morning, I'm logging into my job and I just freaking, it was like a throwaway tweet. And then all of a sudden it went crazy. And I remember logging in that night with my wife and we go into my notifications and the thing's just going hyperspeed. Like it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And it went on like that for 2 days. Like, and actually when I went back and looked at the metrics, the second day I had like twice as many as the first. So anyway, yeah, that made my second account, my politics account, much bigger than my first music account. And now my politics account's almost at 10,000 followers, whereas my music one is only like 1,200 or something. But this is where I sound off, right? This is where I let it all out. And this is the stuff that resonates with people who share our values and can see what's happening the way we can.
So the funny
that's why
thing
I got
is,
so big. Yeah.
like wouldn't them asking your daughter to write a land acknowledgement, couldn't that be considered cultural appropriation? Like the things that they don't want us to do, they're also forcing on kids. So it's like a form of gaslighting. How did you respond to that?
Well, I mean, I was ready to go over them, give them a piece of my mind, but trying to be the good Christian man, I didn't want to. I guess at the beginning, I thought to myself, you know, if I come in there guns blazing and really get my back up, like they're not gonna cooperate with me, and it's just gonna turn into a war. So what I did is I tried to approach it professionally and respectfully at the beginning.
So I'm really liking this this take, because he's explaining it very, very well.
And like I tell the whole story about it on my AM 640 interview, which came out after the fact. Like I got brought on the radio because of the huge response that this tweet had, and I guess I got the attention of this radio station. And they reached out to me, and I went on, and I remember recounting the story to them as well. But like if you actually go into the comments of the tweet, I provide continuous updates of what happened. But basically, I came and I told them we don't agree with this. We don't agree with all the left-wing indoctrination that you're putting into us, and this is basically very much against our values, and we will not allow our daughter to do this assignment. So you need to give her something else. And they came back.
So I love that. And I want to say it out loud. Whatever he just said there. This goes against our values, and you need to give my daughter something else. We're not going to do this. It's very simple.
Back and we're agreeable to that. And I was like, well, obviously I'd like to see this stuff taken out of the curriculum, but my chief concern is just protecting my daughter. And in that instance, I was appeased by that just to get her out of, so she dodges the bullet. And she's a young, impressionable mind, and they're hammering her from every angle. And like that wasn't even the first. Like there's been several instances of this.
Again, I'm loving this. This is the role. This is what a father's supposed to do, right? So I'm talking about him pounding his values into his daughters, but you've also got the school system pounding their values into his daughters.
It's like I've had to pull her out of the sex education program where they're constantly hammering in about homosexuality and gender identity and masturbation and all these crazy, like, perverted concepts that we never learned about in sex ed when we were growing up.
Yeah.
So I pulled her out of all that, and yeah, it's been amazing because I think more and more people are seeing it. They're seeing that all the institutions do not have our best interests at heart. They're out there actively working against us.
Yeah.
and it's disheartening, and it's hard for people to wrap their head around. But after COVID, I don't know how. Like, to me, it's not that hard. But I think the biggest problem people have with wrapping their head around COVID was realizing like that there's that much evil out there, and people have a hard time with that. But once
Yeah.
Right. And this is so poignant. I remember having a conversation with my brother early lockdowns, and he said something like, I don't think it's motivated by just pure evil. And I tend to like, it's like they wouldn't intentionally harm us. Like what motivation? Like trying to like, there's no motivation where they would be intentionally harming. And I still a lot of people ascribe like pure evil intent, whereas I sort of have, it's more like a banal, you know, if you've heard the banality of evil intent mixed in with a little bit of malevolence, but to me, it's not necessarily an outright malevolence. But yeah, there are people in government who want to destroy people like me and this guy. So yeah, that's true. But to sort of to make it like a, oh, they're like cackling in a dark corner seeking our destruction, to me that's mainly cartoonish.
Once you wrap your head around,
They don't
right?
want to believe that the government's actually out to get us.
But like, it's the kind of thing that if you can't see it yourself with your own eyes and you just hear it on somebody else's, you just look at them like, okay, yeah, whatever.
And this part was very good. This is an insight into psychology that I found. This was one of the most helpful pieces to have some understanding, is like, yeah, if you haven't seen it with your own eyes, then when I talk or when Adamental talks, you're gonna think we're crazy. Like, it's like, and I really like that. There seemed to be like a piercing wisdom into the nature of what it is to be human, like how human beings operate in the world, and like experience is the, like personal experience a lot of times is the only thing that will teach.
It's so easy to roll your eyes. Like, you have to see it for yourself, and once you can see it, then you realize that's when you can accept it.
Yeah, for sure. I was Tammy and I, we both had like a Christmas dinner this past weekend, and we both had very different experiences. And unfortunately, Tammy's wasn't a great one, right, Tammy? I got lucky, and I, ended up talking at the table about the podcast is what came up, and all the different things that we talk about. And I met these two women that were very like-minded, and we talked for like almost 2 hours about everything, all the corruption and everything. And the one girl had admitted, like, she wasn't awake.
And when I heard this, I was jealous. I'm like, that is so healing, to meet up with two other people and just shoot the shit for 2 hours about this stuff. That is just, that's beautiful, right? And she says she got lucky. And it almost feels like that. It almost feels like luck if you can actually meet up with one or two people in person and then just talk about this openly.
To it like early on, but she ended up going and getting one jab, and she had severe reactions from it. And it was when she went to the doctor, she was covered in rashes and like all this stuff. And that's what the moment that opened her eyes, because she went to the doctor, she was saying, and she was asking for like a requisition for blood work and this, that, and the other, because of all these symptoms and all these rashes she's having. She's like, something's going on, blah, blah, blah. And the doctor basically shut her down. The doctor looked at her and was like, it's all in your head. She was like, what? And it was that moment where she saw it for herself, right? And she started to.
And there's so many stories about this. So I don't need to say anything. Like, this is just par for the course.
Awaken.
Dude, I remember being at my brother's place, and we were like, our whole family was awake too. None of us took the jab, none of us. And I made sure my daughters didn't. But we were sitting in his office in his shop, and he got an email come in from his doctor. And I remember reading it, and it was the most dystopian thing I'd ever read. It was like, come on down and be euthanized. Like, that's how we read it. And like, it sounded like it just, I don't know. Do you not remember the things that the government sent us in the mail? Like, they sent us like all the myths around the COVID vaccine, and they had infographics, and they were like one by one trying to knock down all the things people were saying online. Like, I think I kept a copy of it because I'm going to save it.
I think I got something. Yeah.
Like,
I remember the video about this is how mRNA works, and you don't have to worry because as soon as it goes into your shoulder, within 24 hours, it disappears.
Yeah, so I didn't realize, like, I lived with someone and they were basically repeating all the propaganda. And I didn't understand that they, like, I thought, oh, this is what they think. And like, oh, she knows about the mRNA vaccines. It's curious that has an interest in this. What I didn't realize was she was just taking in all the propaganda and believing it hook, line, and sinker. And then once I realized that, it's like it was predictable. She was just repeating whatever the news told her.
Right. Oh,
right.
Okay. Oh, okay. Here's a story I could tell you that I got to be careful because I don't want to, I don't want to reveal too much about the company I work at, but they had somebody from the COVID vaccine task force from the government show up at our company and try to sell us on the vaccine before it got released.
Oh,
and
wow.
They had a huge conference, and this guy got up, and he was there with people in senior leadership, but he was somebody who was from the government vaccine task force. And he went down the sales pitch in front of everybody. And at that time, I was already wide awake to what was going on. And I remember first times hearing any hint of a vaccine coming. I'm like, oh no, I hope they don't do that. And sure enough, it was waiting in the wings. Mm-hmm. And he gets up and he starts selling us on it. And he said similar things to what you just said, which is, oh, don't worry. He goes, yeah, it's mRNA, it's new technology, but this is not the first time we've seen an evolution in the technology of vaccines. This is a natural part of the, progress, the march forward, progress in medicine, and
Okay, so this part is critical, and I've been wanting to talk about this. To me, I've had time to distill how everyone got duped. And I think this actually might be the main reason. And the main reason, because to me, I call it a COVID religion. And the COVID religion basically throws everything from the past out. Your whole life experience, throughout your whole life experience, every single scientific fact from before, all that's out. So how did everybody throw everything out, including all science, right? And I think this is the end point at which everyone is like the majority bought into it, is this idea, and maybe this isn't the right way to describe it, scientism, or the idea of progress. It's like the idea they discovered a new science, and now we all just follow new science, and this is progress. Because I couldn't comprehend why people bought into it, and I really think it has to do with this idea of this is a new science, this is a new way, this is all new, and it's a new religion, basically.
You have nothing to be worried about, and you know, we're here to protect you. La la la. And I remember watching, like staring into the screen and staring into this man's eyes, and like seeing the snake in him, and being like, you are a villain who's trying to convince us to go and hurt and kill ourselves. And I immediately saw it. And then when the thing was over, you go into the comments and you see all the people. You know what it's like at work. Everybody, you know, nobody's going to put their nasty comments. Everybody's going to put their fake professional comments.
Mm-hmm.
And all the comments are, "Oh, I can't wait! I'm going to be first in line to get vaccinated." La, la, la. It's just an avalanche of pro-vaccination stuff. And then I remember pouring over that. And I was one of maybe 2 or 3 people that was like going against the grain. But you have to be so careful what you say, right? Anyway, that was a really dystopian moment, and yeah.
I like he's using the word dystopian. Sometimes it's like I feel like I'm so gaslit that I can't even find the right words. But yeah, that's a dystopian moment. And the memory that came up for me was they let us back in to play hockey for a little bit because they shut down everything. And they let us come back, which I was like, why would they even let us come back? Because at that point I was like, this is a cult, and a cult doesn't want to let people associate. What they do is that they want to separate them, so that they can't organize and fight back. And I thought, why would they let us play hockey? Because if we play hockey, then we might start to talk to each other. But they let us play hockey again, and it was so demoralizing in a few ways. But one of the ways, because I thought, oh great, we'll be able to get in the dressing room, and then we can all talk about how we can fight back against the lockdowns and the mandates and the vax passports. But the topic in the dressing room, there was no, it wasn't like they were doing it, like it didn't look like they were doing it for work purpose. Like the topic was like 80% of the people spent the whole time in the dressing room talking about how they could comply better. They were talking about what they could do to comply better. And I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it that that's what they chose to talk about.
It's going to be hard for anyone who didn't live through it to understand just how insane it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's only getting worse. So the longer it takes them to wake up, the harder it's going to be, because it's only getting more and more insane. So if you haven't woken up yet, like, holy crap, I feel so bad for you, because I don't, like, when the floor dropped out from underneath.
So this part I didn't understand. I don't know why she's making the claim it's only getting worse and it's going to be harder. I don't understand exactly what she's saying. She didn't seem to describe why she thinks that, but
me and my husband, when we started realizing the evil that's going on, it was hard. Like, those were dark days. I mean, it wasn't until we went to the convoy in Ottawa that we kind of, our spirits got uplifted, but then of course that got crushed as well by old Stompy.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, that really brings me back. That brings me, they were such dark days because, there's so much to talk about with this shit. I'm going to be talking about this for the rest of my life. This is never being let go. This is never being forgotten. One thing, I think that what helped people get through this was the idea that it was temporary. But I knew that it wasn't. There was no reason for it to be temporary. There's this idea, like, this just, people just thought, well, it's like, why? Why would you think it would be temporary? So I was acting the whole time like this is de facto permanent unless we do something about it. People just they do not have a conception, I don't think, in Canada, how evil it can get. Like, China is going to be like an oppressive place for decades, and people will adapt for decades. There was no reason for us to think that this was going to be temporary. So I operated under the assumption it wasn't going to be temporary. And the only way to make it temporary was to not comply and have enough momentum to stop it from being permanent.
Stompy the horse. And so, like, I truly do, like, I feel for the people, because I was one of them. I feel for the people who have been duped, and if they're not seeing it yet, they are really in for, they're either not going to wake up at all, or they're in for a real awakening.
Well, yeah, my take on it is if COVID didn't wake you up, I don't know what will. Like, I think the only other thing that might wake you up is a near-death experience.
And this is beautiful. There's so many things they said that just resonate. Like, if COVID doesn't get you, what's going to get you? And so he's saying a near-death experience. That's almost how drastic, and maybe that's how drastic it has to be to wake people up.
And I actually do know some people that's exactly what happened to them, right? Where they had to fall for the deception and fall for the propaganda, buy into it, until suddenly they had a heart attack or a stroke or turbo cancer or something horrible happened, and then they realized, and then they started, and then some of them wake up, some of them don't. Like, I know a guy from my church who I was warning him from the beginning, don't do it, man. Like, we were friends. He knew my position. He was well informed, and he agreed with me. But his wife was kind of a left-wing socialist, and she absolutely demanded that he took it. And in order to appease her, he took it. And sure enough,
if you're living with a left-wing socialist or whatever, that type, it's so hard. It's so hard if the person you're living with, or if your partner is on the opposite side of this.
A few months later, he his arteries clogged up so hard that he didn't have the energy to get up and down the stairs. He went in and had what is an angiogram, where they stick something in your vessel, in your bloodstream, and they can see the passage of where blood, and they can see where the restrictions are. And he had a section of his heart that was 90% clogged, and he had to have open heart surgery to fix it, to survive.
Wow.
And even after the fact, I said, see? And he goes, oh, no, that had nothing to do with the vaccine. That was just, like.
Oh, he still didn't connect the dots.
Still didn't connect the dots.
Oh,
so
my God.
For some people, it doesn't matter. You can't wake them up. It doesn't matter what you say.
We're seeing people die in their 50s, like suddenly either turbo cancer or heart attacks or what have you now, like within our circle. and the people around them just they won't connect it because the doctors aren't connecting it, right? The doctors don't want liability. So
and did you know
that's a really good point. So there's just so many layers to this. Yeah, the doctors are not motivated to connect it because they're not incentivized to. So the doctors don't want to connect it.
if you Google like turbo cancer, they try to debunk it like it's just a made up conspiracy, whatever, anti-vax, blah 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 term.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the video that I posted about that guy from the States talking about all these viruses that are coming next month?
Oh yeah, Peter Hotez.
Yeah.
Did you all see that? Steve, did you see that?
I did not.
Okay, I sent it to Dave. Dave, can you play it? Because it's fucking crazy.
He's not looking great, by the way.
No sound at the moment.
Makes me happy.
Really worried about it's big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mentioned H5N1, that I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry, and that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing, but there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast where I am here in Texas. So we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus, maybe even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all this sharp rise in vaccine preventable diseases going up because of, in part, the anti-vaccine activism that's so prominent right now. We have a 5-fold rise in pertussis cases, whooping cough over the last year, 15 measles outbreaks this year. We've got polio that's been in the wastewater in New York State. All that's going to come crashing down on January 21st on the Trump administration. We need a really, really good team to be able to handle it.
Like, what the fuck?
Oh my God, we're all gonna die.
Okay, no, that I'm glad you just showed me that, because that's very consistent with my take on how things are going to play out.
But like, how is this? Okay, did you see the headline? It was like what's his name? Junior, or Kennedy Jr., whatever. Dangerous, too dangerous for America, or whatever it said, right? And it's like, how do you know the date that this is happening? I don't understand.
Yeah,
you're not
and
like
releasing all of those mosquitoes that seem to be creating illnesses now couldn't have anything to do with Bill Gates releasing a pile of mosquitoes on the coast, could it? Nothing. No way.
Not.
So, like, I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm obviously I'm a huge Trump fan, but I also have reserved my suspicions that he may be one of them, because he still doubled down on the vaccine. And,
well, sure.
Right. So I have a concern that he might not be the real article. But what happened last time when Trump was in office, right? We saw the media and all the institutions absolutely create as much chaos as they possibly could. We had riots, cities burning. We had they basically went to town to try and make those years the most tumultuous they possibly could, so that they could make everyone, and then they could use the media to try and blame the current administration they don't have it under control, so that they could try to win power back. So now, if Trump's coming into power, what is the establishment who wants to take over the world? What are they going to do? They're going to try and create wars and diseases and then riots and they're just going to try and make everything chaos, so that they can blame him and make so that he can't, they're basically throwing him a really tough curveball that he can't manage properly, so that they can make him look bad, blame him, and try to get public support back on their side, right?
But they're also telling us that they're doing it this time on January 21st.
Well, I guess I think that's his take on, it's all engineered, and they'll wait until they can move forward with their agenda, right?
Yeah.
I don't know,
man.
So I do think we're going to go through some scary years, but it's all, to me, it's all part of the divide and conquer, right? Like you've got to outrage. You got to keep one side outraged while the other one's in power, and then the other one gets in power, and then the other side gets outraged, and then they just keep raising the ante until we all kill each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right then. Well, that was that.
No worries.
Well, let's talk about your music.
So
I know you released an album this year, didn't you?
Yeah, it's been quite the year, let me tell you. Yeah, I'm an independent, home recording artist and producer. It's not my day job. I work for a large corporation in the financial world. So it's not how I make my money. It's very much something I do on the side, but I've been keeping it going my whole life. I'm 47 now. I've been doing it for over 30 years. Even back in university, I used to, every dorm room I went into, I claimed the closet and I put up foam padding and turned it into a mic booth. I've been doing this forever, but I kind of come to it and then I fall away because it's not my main gig, and it's something I can't let go of. And now I'm actually coming back harder and stronger because I'm older now and I have the perspective and the wisdom to be able to comment on what's happening very confidently and with perspective, whereas I didn't have that before, right? And so yeah, I released the album in February. It was called Last Days, and it was coming off of the COVID period. But the music that's in that, there's I think there's 14 songs on it, and those songs stretch back all the way back to maybe 2018. So it's like a collection of work that's over the last several years, but it's all Christian conservative. It's all praising God, but there's a lot of political content in there too. There's one song that's very much dedicated to pointing out Trudeau and his corruption.
That's You Can't Hold Me, right?
Yeah, You Can't Hold Me. That was that one. That one specifically is about Canada and Trudeau, but I also have, there's a song in there about the New World Order's takeover of the whole world. It's the very last song on the album, called This Wicked Place, where I talk about, basically how the world is run by evil, rich pedophiles that have taken over every government and control our internet and our schools, and they're going to control our financial system, and they're going to bring in centralized digital currency, and they're going to, and then I basically explain how this is eventually going to lead to the mark of the beast from the bottom, right? And that you need a mark on your hand and forehead in order to buy and sell, to participate in society. So I'm tying politics and religion together in a lot of this, and yeah, and the actual song "Last Days" is about, basically living in the end times and how corrupt everything is. So, it's not, there's a very consistent theme running through the whole body for it. That's, I guess, what I'm saying.
Well, I've heard some of your work and I love it. I don't know if you guys want to listen to maybe the one where he, Trudeau destroys Canada. We can have, how long is it again?
Just under 3 minutes.
Just under 3 minutes. We can listen to some of it. Let's do it.
Okay, if this works, that means I've figured out the other thing too. So
oh, we're good. Just got a lot of echo.
Just my body. America, home of the brave, land of the free. Canada's up here looking down on you with jealousy. Trudeau and the globalists have got us in a squeeze, stomping on our liberties with tyranny. Got a corrupt regime in bed with the foreign enemy. The World Economic Forum's driving all of our policies, crushing our economy to push us into poverty. Agenda 2030's here to take all of our property and stick us in the 50-minute smart city prisons where they restrict us in districts and dictate the way we're living. Use facial recognition and all these surveillance systems to put us all on close supervision. They think they're winning, but they in for a rude surprise. Cause we will rise, we won't be divided and terrorized. You can try to crush our spirit, but we won't fold. We refuse to be controlled, you can't hold me. You can't hold me. I'm too slippery. Do no slippery. I get on. You can touch me if you want. I got both, just my body. Son of Castro, Trudeau's a natural born tyrant. Admirer of the basic dictatorship of China. Use him as a blueprint, he's ruthless. He's trying to turn us to the first post-national state. And if we're spineless, he'll lead us into the new world order. Demonize the natives while flinging open the border. D-E and I to divide and conquer. They must demoralize us all so they...
Yeah, there's so many psyops. Post nation state. And now they want to have a bunch of patriots fighting against Trump. It's fascinating. The video goes on. It's a little slow. I find myself just sitting here not having much to comment on. So maybe I'll just end it there. But like when it comes to music, I like what he says after this about music. I like what he says about having perspective as an older man. And made me think about music. Maybe creating my own music. So, I haven't really brought the fire for this commentary, but it's around an hour. I'll end the stream there, I guess.